Was the world always a battlefield of appetites? Did kings once weep over spoiled grapes and peasants gamble their last crust for a single drop of ale? Let's dive into a swirling, sticky history, a history of feasts, droughts, and the peculiar obsession with how we consume everything. Forget dusty textbooks. This is a story whispered through stained glass, etched onto pewter tankards, and sung in bawdy ballads. Imagine a London in the late Middle Ages. Rain-slicked streets, the stench of the Thames, and a constant, insistent rumble of bodies. Food wasn't a luxury, it was a brutal, daily struggle. Revels were the only escape. The privileged, like the lords and ladies of a place like Greenwich, could afford a bizarre assortment of roasted swan, spiced meats, and enough honey to drown a bear. Their banquets were meticulously documented, a record of extravagance that seemed designed to mock the starving masses. A capital city's privileges, a contemporary observer noted, were lavish beyond measure, but look closer. Beneath the gilded tables, a different reality simmered. Alehouses, those muddy, smoky dens of commerce and gossip, were the lifeblood of the city. A simple pint of ale brewed in the country by a local farmer was a precious commodity. Pamphlets like The English Alehouse revealed a surprising obsession with the brewing process, the precise temperature, the quality of the hops. It wasn't just about getting drunk, it was about knowing the drink. Let's jump forward a century. The Renaissance explodes across Europe, and suddenly wine isn't just for the church, it's for the court. Think Leonardo da Vinci sketching vineyards while composing poems about the intoxicating effects of a good vintage. Wine, women, and song becomes a rallying cry, a celebration of pleasure and artistry, but don't mistake this for a carefree era. Moralists like Montaigne penned essays warning against the dangers of intoxication, the slippery slope from simple enjoyment to utter ruin. Of drunkenness, he mused, is a most perilous state. Now let's shift our gaze to the countryside. In the rolling hills of England, brewing became a family affair. Pamela Sambrook's Country House Brewing paints a picture of meticulous rituals, secret recipes passed down through generations. Farmers with their hands stained brown from the earth were the master brewers, controlling the flow of ale to their villages. It was a power, a connection to the land, and a way to survive, but it wasn't just about sustenance, it was about status. Consider the detailed descriptions in Gervase Markham's The English Housewife. Recipes weren't just instructions, they were declarations of wealth and refinement. The quality of the ingredients, the complexity of the preparations all spoke volumes about the household's standing. Then, a darker note. As the 17th century progressed, a disturbing trend began to emerge, the link between alcohol and offspring. Researchers like Rebecca Warner and Henry Rosett unearthed chilling accounts of children suffering from birth defects, shortened palpebral fissures, thin lips, and a diminished philtrum linked to their parents' excessive drinking. The consequences weren't just personal, they were generational. This wasn't a simple case of bad habits. Alcohol became intertwined with cultural identity. In France, Sadon et al. Explored the deeply ingrained rituals surrounding drinking, the symbolic significance of toasts and celebrations. In Italy, Lolli and Greeley examined how alcohol consumption reflected regional customs and social hierarchies. Every culture, it seemed, had its own unique relationship with the bottle. Let's travel to Scotland, where prices for food and drink soared, creating a stark contrast between the wealthy and the poor. Ale the same in England, the wealthy, like the Earl of Northumberland, indulged in lavish feasts while the common folk struggled to afford a single loaf of bread. The 18th century brought a surge of moral panic. Figures like John Wesley preached against excessive drinking, warning of its corrupting influence on society. Yet the demand for alcohol remained stubbornly high. The rise of the alehouse became a focal point for social interaction, a place where news spread, arguments erupted, and fortunes were made and lost. And what about the women? Anne Romelat challenged the prevailing notion that women were excluded from the world of drinking. She examined how women in medieval France participated in convivial gatherings, sharing wine and stories with their male counterparts. But it wasn't always a celebration of equality. As Marvin Block pointed out, there was a distinct double standard where men were often excused for their drunken behavior, while women were judged harshly. The 19th century saw new anxieties surrounding alcohol, fueled by the emergence of the fetal alcohol syndrome. Researchers like Claren and Smith identified the devastating effects of maternal drinking on developing fetuses, documenting a range of physical abnormalities. Short palpebral fissures, a hypoplastic upper lip with thinned vermilion and diminished to absent philtrum, they described, a heartbreaking reminder of the devastating consequences of indulgence. Across the Atlantic, the story mirrored this one. In America, Warner and Rosett meticulously documented the impact of alcohol on families, tracing a disturbing pattern of abuse and neglect. It was a grim echo of the concerns raised in Europe, but let's not forget the artistry of it all. Poets and playwrights embraced the intoxicating power of wine and beer. From Rabelais' boisterous celebrations to Shakespeare's witty depictions of drunken revelry, alcohol became a recurring theme in literature. It was a symbol of freedom, excess, and the human condition. And then there's the legacy of ritual. Think of the elaborate ceremonies surrounding the Eucharist, documented by figures like Bynum and Reuben. Wine, consecrated and transformed, became a potent symbol of faith and communion. The act of drinking was imbued with spiritual significance, a connection to something larger than oneself. Let's circle back to the early days, to the simple act of brewing. Gervase Markham, in his English Housewife, described the meticulous process, the careful selection of ingredients, the precise timing of the fermentation. It wasn't just about making a drink, it was about honoring a tradition, a craft, a connection to the past. The story doesn't end with the 20th century. As the world industrialized, alcohol consumption continued to be shaped by cultural norms and social pressures. From the smoky pubs of London to the bustling taverns of New York, the drinking habits of different communities reflected their unique histories and values. Consider the diverse rituals surrounding alcohol in different cultures. In France, Sadon et al. Explored the deeply ingrained traditions surrounding winemaking and consumption. In Italy, Lolli and Greeley examined how alcohol played a central role in family celebrations and social gatherings. And in Andalusia, Dreesen investigated how alcohol was used to forge social bonds and reinforce masculine identity. But the story is not just about pleasure and excess. It's also about struggle, resilience, and the enduring human need for connection. From the desperate attempts to survive famine to the joyous celebrations of harvest festivals, alcohol has always been intertwined with the rhythms of life. So the next time you raise a glass, take a moment to consider the long and complex history behind that simple act. It's a story of kings and peasants, poets and preachers, farmers and brewers, a story of how we've used, abused, and celebrated the intoxicating power of drink throughout the ages. And as you swallow, remember, the world was never honest until now.